the farther you move from the point of sale, the farther you move from the point of the sale.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host, who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace. Mom, how you doing today?
I am having a great day, Lindsay. How are you doing today?
Doing good. I'm excited for this conversation we're about to have. It's going to be a good one. It's a long time coming. We've had so many scheduling issues.
I know. We are very fortunate to have the one, the only Keith Savino with us. So for those of you that do not know Keith Savino, he is the managing partner at PCF. He's also the national cyber practice lead for PCF, and he's a super good friend of mine. I had the honor and privilege to actually present with him at a mastermind. That was my first time meeting you in person. And I got to say, I was nervous and then very, very, very happy that we got to do that together. So thank you for joining us today, Keith.
I feel honored to be with the one and only Carey Wallace.
That's funny. I don't think that's how this works. I think it's the one and only Keith Savino today. So for those of the people out there, Keith, that don't know you, would you mind giving them a little bit of your background? Because you've been in this industry for such a long time. And you've made such a huge impact in our industry. I'd love for you to just give a quick synopsis of what your careers look like in this industry.
I probably didn't take a normal route. I came from outside the industry. I'm not a multi-generational principal, somebody in the industry. Coming from outside and into technology, the very first thing my brother did when I joined him, and he was in the business a few years before me in the 80s, was point at some computer boxes and say, "Hey, man, I bought that like 6 months ago. I have no idea what to do with it. You figure it out." And that is truly how I got thrust into technology. But I had come from technology. I did networking, et cetera. But what's unique is we sold that first agency in 1992. So, and then I stayed with that firm for a few years, got very involved in the operations. And then I moved to a different firm where the technology in 1995, I think Windows 95 now, kind of merged with everything else that was going on in the industry, and the dot-com boom occurred. So I found myself doing two things. Operationally, I moved to, heading operations. I became a CIO of a pretty substantial firm in the Northeast. But I also was the person who was able to speak English and connect with technology risks, because at that time, everyone's eyes just glazed over. So it was a very different path than a lot of folks had, which makes me kind of a weird duck. So I got very involved in a lot of technology groups. I've been past chair of multiple user groups over the years, like the Network of Vertafore users and the Delphi Information System /eBix group and Ivan's Advisory Board and all that stuff. And also sat on the Accord Board of Directors for 14 years. And I was vice chair of standards for 9 of those, and involving, I guess, about 26 countries at the time. And so, understanding how to move the data, do this, efficiencies, drive all that. But guess what? But I always was selling insurance. And so this is really our fifth firm.
Wow.
My brother and I were separate for a while at different firms, then came back together again. A lot of people don't know that. Some folks know my brother's now currently a president of a national trade association, the PIA. I held that role 7 years ago.
So I got to tell you, I saw that and I thought, how good for them that they have him at the helm. Like, what an incredible thing. Before we move off that, Keith, can I ask you a really quick question? Because you've seen this. You actually had that role. Your brother's now in that role. And I'd love for you to just for a minute, like if for Lindsay's generation, what is the trade association's role going to be for her generation? Because I know what it is for ours. Like, I do know. And your brother's at the helm. Like, he's the one actually looking out and saying, what is this going to look like? I think it fits really closely to some of the things we're going to talk about that agents should be paying attention to. So I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that a little bit, because you've been so impactful in that space from a PIA standpoint, without question.
So I think it has a lot to do with folks being driven by community. All right. So the one common thread of everything that I was involved in over the past, 36 plus years has a lot to do with community. You mentioned the mastermind group before. What is that? That's a community. The trade associations are communities, and each community usually has some sort of major focus. But it's also, you get out of it what you put into it. So you can either be very, very passive and be really grateful over the fact that there are these lovely volunteers all throughout this country and others who are fighting on behalf of our industry. They could be fighting on behalf of the consumer in our industry, the independent agents and brokers, the carrier relationships, et cetera, or the vendors. And I've been in all of those roles over time. So I think the role itself doesn't change, right? I think that's a common, and we've had that for 300 years. The challenge is what are the issues, right? So the issues are going to change over time. Issues that were focused on, fighting for agents' rights, or fighting for consumers in various states, working collaboratively, with carriers over capacity. Those are going to come and go, right? That's going to ebb and flow. I think the most important message is to get involved. The reality is, people ask Rich and I all the time, and remember, we would separate for a while together, et cetera. They're like, gee, how do you guys find the time to do this? And I always chuckle to myself, because my attitude is, how do you not find the time to do this? Right?
If you're like me and many other small businesses across the country where hiring, training, and retaining employees is a challenge, Agency VA has a solution for you. Agency VA has over 1,000 VAs hired, managed, and trained in the Philippines, Latin America, and India. But did you also know they have 100 licensed agents here in the U.S. that can help you manage your book? I use a VA who lives in the Philippines, and I absolutely love her. The process was simple. We had a consultation where they asked me my needs, goals, and concerns, and matched me with Allie, who has been an absolute game changer for me. Employing Allie through Agency VA has allowed me to focus on my business without worrying about HR concerns, turnover, and monitoring payroll. The best part is the Agency VA team was eager to help my company and also make sure that Allie is getting employee benefits, a competitive salary to help her live a better life in the Philippines. If this is something that you are struggling with inside your agency, please visit Agency VA /Insurance Refocused and set up a time to talk to them about your hiring needs. I agree. It's so important to our industry to get involved, because here's the deal. There's people representing you that aren't running agencies. So if you're not getting involved, you're not helping them serve agents in our community in the best way possible. So anyway, I don't want to divert to that. Let's talk about, because I don't think there's another person that I know personally that has more experience with M&A personally and also helping other people through the process than you. So, I would love to hear your experience and the advice you would give to agents that want to navigate that decision for themselves well and position themselves to have as many options as possible. What would you say to people? What do you say to people that reach out to you and are looking to do that themselves?
So I think, regardless of what your decision is, it's really just a journey. So I don't really focus on the M&A conversation as much as people would like me to when they ask this question. And I'm sorry if I disappoint. But to me, M&A is just a bullet point with the journey. And if you treat it as strictly a financial transaction, you will end up with strictly a financial transaction, right? And, so when you hear stories of things that go well or don't go well as a result of someone's journey that they choose to take, that's usually a direct correlation to what their expectations were versus the path they actually laid out for their journey, right? If I want to go on a hike, I might want to wear the right shoes and take water with me and make sure that I'm handling that. And if I don't wear the right shoes and I don't take water with me, that hike is not going to be as pleasant as if I had come prepared.
Amen to that, man. Amen to that. Been there, done that, have the t-shirt. Yes.
Yeah. So, I did M&A work. Look, we sold our first agency in 92. I worked for the next 3 years with the firm that I was with, and we did a lot of acquisitions. And then I could say that continued straight through the rest of it. I've seen it through the operations side from a technology standpoint. Understand the value of what we today would call digitizing, the agency. I tell people for years, I'm not an accounting person, but boy, when you're committed to data integrity, you become a diligent person, right? So when you understand that you have to check a lot of boxes along your path to prepare for that journey. Um, the biggest caution that I would tell folks is take the time to look inside your business first. Uh, you have to build a good business, and if you don't, it's going to come out in diligence. So don't even bother heading down that path, because again, you didn't wear the right shoes, you didn't bring the water, you didn't drink, you didn't bring an extra shirt for when it gets cold at night. You have to figure out how you nurture that business and grow that business to a point of where you feel that you're ready to take the next step. Don't find yourself in a position that you have to. Find yourself in a position that you want to. So it's about your personal goals as well. If you moved into a neighborhood, you would choose what neighborhood, what are the schools like, do you plan to have a family there, raise a family, what's your view? You would plan all of that. And I will tell you, I see folks frequently and I scratch my head. I said, wow, I know that agency really well. And they did a deal with so-and-so. Like, it just seemed so not the right fit. And certainly, that's what I would hope to prevent. The fact is, if you run a really good business, to use the sports analogy, if you're committed, I'm a big baseball guy. So if you come up through the ranks, baseball has a minor league system, right? So if you make it to the other side of the, and you make it into the bigs, there was a lot of work that got you there. Everyone only sees this little bit, but that started with, when you got up in the morning, what you ate, how hard you trained. Do you have natural talent? Absolutely. And so I believe that if you have this on your horizon and this is part of your journey, you don't begin that journey just because you want to run a process. You begin that journey because you were already running a business that allowed you to be involved in your community, live in the right neighborhood, business neighborhood, et cetera. So to me, you have to spend a lot of time understanding that. And also then that also helps you. The more you know yourself and your firm and the people you work with, it helps you align yourself with the right organization going forward. So we did a deal with Peter Foy back in 2019, but we started that in 2017. And to be fair, we really started on our journey down this path around 2011. Okay, so when we started thinking this is what we want to have in the future, that was years before we did anything. So it was deliberate, right? And the reason why we're sitting here going into finishing up year 5, moving into year 6, is because it was so important to us, the folks who we were getting involved in. So we just came out of a business meeting, and I have to say this because it's important. And one of the things that Peter likes to point out all the time is how close many of the partners have become. That many, it's the partners, but it's also you're getting to know their spouses. We were spouses at meetings and significant others, and now you have folks who are getting together on their own and they're seeing each other together, and it builds not just a community but almost a family mindset. And to give he hates when I probably do this, but to give Peter a compliment, it's you have to create that environment, right? And you have to be committed to it, because it's so easy to just be all about the numbers. And
Well, you have to be super intentional about it. Like, that doesn't happen by accident. That happens because someone planned it and made the space for it. And here's the thing. I think what's really interesting, you don't know this about me, Keith, but my husband works for a software company, and they are 100% remote. He leads a team, and I will tell you, I know more about some of the people that he works with than I did about the people who sat right next to me, because they were very intentional about those club trips. You got to know their family, you understood what their kids were doing, you spent quality time together, which means when you have to depend on someone, you knew who you were depending on. And it's super intentional. It does become like a family. And that's hard for people to understand when they're an island and they're not part of the community, but it is a very nice byproduct of becoming part of a larger community where people think the same, they have all the same goals. You now have sounding boards. It's a pretty incredible situation when you're part of it, right?
Sure. And that might be important to you if you want to do something into the future, because you've woven that into the fabric of your life. In our case, my brother and I will always put ourselves out into the public eye, which means you're testing yourself, right? A major leaguer steps up to the plate in front of a big camera, right? At some point in time, there's a 6% rule there. I don't know if you know, but from a 12-year-old to high school senior baseball, it's 6%. Then to get to the collegiate level, it's 6% between D1, D2, D3. Then to get to the next level, so that means 94% of the participants keep falling off. So I look at this journey mapping the same way, in that you want to decide, you're going to make it to the bigs. You're going to become part of that next 6% to move on, if that's your goal. If that's not and your goals are different, well, you should be doing exactly the same thing, nothing different, to reach that goal. This is just one path.
So tell me specifically, what does that mean? If I'm an agency owner and I'm listening to this and I want to be part of the 6%, what are some of the things I need to look at my business first in order to position myself that I have the option to be part of that 6%? Give that, because you have the ability to look back and say, this is what we did our first transaction, this is what we did our last transaction, and everything in between. You've had the ability to learn what that is over time. So give me the down and dirty. What does that look like for an agency owner?
So I'll start with what folks might consider to be smaller agencies first, right? You need to have both your business and your personal goals, and you need to decide what it's going to take to reach that. This is a very difficult business to be successful in. And people who are successful, typically it took them 20 years to become an overnight success, right? So they found processes that were repeatable. Along that path, they often have plateau moments. So particularly when you're a smaller agency, you might be starting out, you've got nothing, you're a producer, you go, okay, first thing I want to do is I want to get to 250 in revenue. Then it's 500. And then it's funny, you go between 500 and that 1.25, right? That seems to be the next magic number. And then the next one tends to be 2.5. And then the next number is 5. And the next number is, so along that path, you want to always align yourself with those who have already achieved and succeeded at. No one makes it in this life without someone else along the path. So the other important piece is understand that teamwork is what leads you there. We had a speaker at a meeting recently, John Maxwell, and you might have seen Carey. I shared this thought too. So I've read a bunch of his books over the years, and it's called the Everest Law, or the law. And basically, to make it to the top of Everest, what do you need? You need a team. So you're going to go so far by yourself, but you're going to need a team. So the point is, you find that right team. That team is your family. That team is your coworkers and your community. And then the other piece of it is stay close as possible to the point of sale. We are in this business because we solve problems for insureds. We don't peddle policies, we solve problems. And so to me, the farther you move from the point of sale, the farther you move from the point of the sale.
Tell me what you mean by that. Yeah.
Right? No one gets paid until someone sells something. And so what happens sometimes, you see as firms grow, is that people get further and further away from the point of the sale. Why are we doing this? What is the point of doing this? We're solving problems. We're doing solutions. We're driving revenue. We're helping other folks pay, raise their kids, do their families. That's a commitment that you make to your team. And that's eventually what becomes your culture. So now you've built this, right? Let's say you've come to a place where you're like, I need to move to the next step. Then part of that is aligning along your journey mapping. Part of that is aligning with what that firm will be. So if you are choosing to go in the direction of M&A activity, whether you're doing it yourself and financing it, or whether you're going to do it with a group of individuals, or like something we did, you also want to make sure that those emotions and professional commitments that you make are aligned. It's a good example, right? So when we did this, I was president of the National Trade Association, and I'm still involved in many groups. My brother was coming in at that. Now, I can tell you that is because we have a philosophy internally about embracing leadership. We call folks leaders in our organization. We love to, again, focus on the personal and the professional growth of folks. And you'll find that there is a huge commitment to servant leadership in our group. So because of that, it was well aligned with my brother and I. It may not be well aligned with someone else who does not embrace those principles. So you'll find amongst us, you'll find multiple partners who are currently presidents or past presidents of the state trade associations. They're very involved in national boards. I could name the states out. It was just in Utah, Matt Barber, Florida, Lori Agostiniak. I mean, I could go on. And so because we embrace that, we're at a meeting, Peter's calling Richard on stage going, hey, this is exactly the kind of guy that we want. So when we look for others who want to be part of our organization, we're looking for all of those qualities, right? Are they awesome people? Are they family people? Are they committed to the industry, et cetera, et cetera? And Carey, if you notice, that doesn't show up on a spreadsheet.
No numbers are going to tell you that.
Right?
That's the thing.
I mean,
yeah.
And that's the thing. So while everybody gets so focused on their pro forma, which I get has to happen, those are the statistics in the game that get you to the bigs, right? Those help get you there. But man, any recruiter and any coach will tell you if a player is uncoachable, they do not want them on their team. And it's the same in this, you want folks who are successful, but I think we have a philosophy that, if we can't sit down and have dinner with somebody and enjoy their company, they're probably not a good partner for us. And so we walk away from a lot of folks who just don't fit, and that's okay. There's folks that I've, referred in to the organization that, I think fit well. And I have to tell you, they are partners today.
Hey guys, if you're looking to improve your bottom line, allow your team to operate efficiently, and really improve that customer retention, I believe you should check out Ascend. Ascend is the all-in-one insurance payment solution. They are focused on streamlining your invoicing, premium financing, accounting, and they'll even make your carrier payables for you. They are taking agency bill and making it as easy as direct bill. That is a game changer. They integrate with all of the major AMS players, and here's the best part. It's free. There is no subscription, no cost to you. They allow your customers to pay how they want. If you are interested in improving your efficiency, go visit ascend.com/Insurance Refocused and let them know that we sent you. Yeah, so for the people out there, the numbers are the easy part. And I know that's really sad because that's what I do. Like I actually do the valuation. I look at the numbers. I look at all the things, but I also get to know the agency. I talk to them about their business. I find out what their sales and service approach is. What is most important to them? How are they getting leads? Like all those things. Tell me what that looks like to figure out that fit. Because honestly, the numbers can look great. The metrics can be perfect, but they're just not a fit. How do you go about getting to that? Like what is that process like? And the other thing, Keith, that everyone asks me is, how long does this take? People are always in a hurry, and I'm thinking it's the biggest decision of your life. I don't know that it should be a hurry, right? So give us an idea of what that process looks like. You've been through it millions of times on both sides of the table. What does that look like?
So first, the numbers are important. I don't want to diminish them. And I know you certainly don't want to diminish them. You live inside the numbers all the time. The reality is the numbers are a barrier, right? If you're not currently running a profitable firm, and even with pro forma adjustments, you just can't get to those numbers, then you're probably going to have to go back and look inward at your business. But here's what I'll tell you. You should do that anyway. So, the time to go see a doctor is not because you're not feeling well, right? So you should be committed to looking at and improving your numbers before you walk into these types of conversations, or the term really is before you run a process. So if you're working with, a consultant who's going to, help build out your pro forma, create your sim, do all of that wonderful stuff, that's great. And you need to do that. But you don't do that with the idea that, it's October now. I'd like to get a deal on the table by December, and then because you may be surprised that it may not work that way. So probably the best, recommendation is begin this process when you do not have to.
You must be listening to my phone calls, because I have a lot of people. It's October. Can we do this by year end? And I'm like, not on your life, but okay. No, that's not really how it works. So, and if it does,
I've spent time with friends who are looking to do things, and they usually walk away with it, even if they do not do a deal, with greater insight of their own organization, right? They start looking at their expenses differently. Small business owners have a different perspective, but when you start actually running your business as a business and not as a hobby or as a, personal, lifestyle agency, right? If you start looking as running a business, here's the shocker that most people find out. They can actually do more things for their team. They look at every portion of their business through a better lens. So you look at the investments that they make in digitization of their business as it relates to their profitability. Now, if you look at it from that perspective, that's fine. But then you start also knowing now exactly what you're spending on. People used to look at rating systems as an expense for software. I look at it as an investment in sales, right? So you start looking at what's making me money, right? What sales is revenue, operations is expense, and then that helps you to build out a better organization. You may find yourself asking your folks who work with you, what they think about things and engaging them, and all of this needs to happen before you really have a conversation that's final, right? It doesn't mean you can't have those conversations. Carey, you probably help 8 times many agencies that actually do deals simply on their journey, right? Because the experience of working with somebody like yourself and other consultants who do that in the industry, you take back lessons, even if you never, ever did a deal.
I mean, my goal is to do that, to get you prepared to think about your business as a business and give you as many options as possible. But you've got to move your mindset from this is an agency to this is a business. And you do that, you think about it differently. And to me, that's super impactful to help someone define their goals, figure out what their path is, and make sure that they can execute upon it. I'm not interested in driving someone towards a deal or not towards a deal. Just figure out what your path is, and I'll help you any way I can, 100% of the time. Like, I think that's the magic, because the reality is agents aren't financial people. Like, they didn't get a finance degree. They're people, they're relationship people. They're solving problems for their clients. And so this is a foreign topic, which I think is what's so powerful about you having the experience of doing this. You are a people person as well. You understand solving problems for your customers, but you've also seen the financial side of this from both perspectives, which is really impactful for others. But it's not a lens that many have. And when they are approaching it, they have misconceptions about what it is and what it looks like and how to prepare for it. So, yeah.
Well said. The process is very important, but it has to be humanized. And sometimes what happens when folks focus on their business is they begin to dehumanize the business. That's not what that means. It simply means, like I said, it's like working out. Right? You're going to monitor what you do every day of the week. If you train, you're going to monitor what you do every day of the week. It doesn't mean you get rid of the human element. So engaging with your team, making sure that you embrace, leadership mindset, it becomes part of that, because when you go through a diligence process, it actually now does not become all about the numbers. It's funny. You spend so much time looking at your pro forma when you go through this process. Anyone who's ever been through it will tell you it is so informative, but it can also be sometimes exhaustive, right? Because they're finally having to make hard decisions that they didn't want to make in the past. There's a lot of expenses that are run through business balance sheets and small businesses that come off, as you know, right? And if you have partners, it becomes an even more interesting conversation, because often, one partner might be doing a little more than the other one. So all these conversations, these are not financial conversations. These are philosophical conversations. They're how do we run our business conversations. It's possible that more than one partner might have been talking to each other about this for years and the other one didn't want to budge. And so along the path, all of these things come up. And that's why I highly recommend someone begins the process, before they quote unquote have to. 2017 is when we first sat down with Peter and had breakfast, right? So, I mean, these are the types of things that were going on for a while,
Yeah. What advice would you give someone who is in my generation and is kind of younger, entering the industry and wants to start their journey with like the right mindset from the beginning? What would you say to someone like that?
One, you're in the best place you could possibly be. Uh, this industry is often viewed as not being sexy enough or cool enough for folks to be involved in. I want to say I'm involved in cyber. I think that's like one of the coolest places to be in the business. But that's just me. And and I could see how that's changed over 25 years. I walk into, a trade show now or a session, and 25 years ago, myself and a handful of people were Chicken Little. We said the sky was falling and nobody wanted to believe us. And, all you heard was crickets. Now, the rooms on those lines of business are filled with young, very energetic, focused insurance professionals. It's very exciting to see, and they have nothing but the sky is the limit, ahead of them. But I would tell them that to be involved is what will help your career mature. Put yourself out there, even at the risk of not being the best or the brightest. It's always good. It's always great to think you're the best and the brightest when there's nobody around you, right? But you will actually find out you're not the best and the brightest when you put yourself in a room around folks. But that's okay, because that's how you learn. And then the other is seek out. I was very lucky when I was, youth in the business. I was actually a young insurance professional back in the 80s and the early 90s in New York City. And, I was very lucky that back then there was a philosophy in the business, and I really hope it kind of returns. I don't see it as much now, a true mentorship philosophy. So, if you were in the business for 25 or 30 years, you used to literally seek out folks who you thought really had great potential. So as a result, I ended up with a number of godfathers in this business. And I'm very grateful to them today. And I'll often tell folks in the business, if they're starting out, and we connect on some level, to call me when they have questions, So I get a lot of phone calls from younger folks in the business. They'll literally be going in to see a client, or they're trying to get involved in the industry. What do they do? Because that's what folks did for me. And I didn't have their cell phone numbers back then, right? It was even before pagers. I'm sorry, but, I'm dating myself. So you often went to lunch. So here's a thought. Go to lunch with people who have been in the business for 25 or 30 years. It might be one of the most important things you can do, and ask questions, right? Because we're all drinking out of wells that other people dug, but learn how to dig the well. And that will make you more valuable in this business long term.
Keith, I got to tell you, I get to talk to a lot of agencies that are getting ready to exit. There's this unbelievable amount of knowledge that is going to leave our industry. And if I could capture that in a bottle and give it to Lindsay's generation, it would be the best gift they ever had, because it's not that do it the way it's always been done, but learn from our journey and have it inform your journey to make you so much more prepared. If I could figure that out, I would be a very rich woman. I will tell you that for sure. But I would agree with you 100%. This is a relationship business. It's never going to change. You learned from the people who forged those paths before you, and being able to find those people, they are willing and ready and eager to share their journey. That's the beauty of our industry. There's no two ways around that. I got to tell you, man, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your journey, because I think it's going to help a lot of people think about their businesses differently, and actually get prepared for this, not wait till the end and realize, oh goodness, I didn't give myself as many options as I needed to. So thank you so much, Keith, for joining us. I really appreciate it. If someone wants to reach out to you, how would they go about doing that?
My email is probably the best place to start. So you can reach me at keiths@broadfieldinsurance.com. That's one of the brands that we manage. And then, I do want to add one other thing, which is, when you serve others, you get that back 10x. So if you have an opportunity to get engaged in the business and to serve others, you're going to find that you will probably also make better decisions about what your journey mapping is going to be. And there's no time to start but the present. So because if someone is in this industry for just a few years and they don't think they're worthy enough to raise their hand or get involved in something, then it's exactly the opposite. This is exactly what our industry wants. So what you're going to find is a very welcome set of arms that want you to come in and help. And by the way, if you don't find that, don't worry. There's 10 other options for you out there. Then you don't want to be around those folks anyway. So the youth in our industry right now is so critical to the future success. And Carey, to your point, we had during the tech boom, we had a period of time when we were not attracting a certain generation. So we actually have we've got this gap in the center. So there's if you're coming into the business now, wow, you better invest in yourself, because you are going to be along for quite the ride. So great place.
I personally cannot wait for the ride. It is going to be exciting. It's been exciting so far in my 3-year journey. So we'll see where the next however many long other years I have left in this industry take me.
I was waiting for you to say
Thanks
30.
So much
that would have been awesome. I was waiting for her to say her next 30 years, but we'll see. Well,
I was going to say 30, but isn't the dream to retire early? So do I really want to commit myself to 30? Let's be real.
Don't commit to a finish
100%.
line.
100%.
Exactly.
Do not commit to a finish line, right? So commit to whatever that is, because a lot of folks get to that finish line and then they don't know what to do.
Exactly. I totally agree. Exactly. Well, Keith, it's been a true pleasure. Thank you so much for joining both of us, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully on our travels soon, right?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.